Married by contract. Never met my own spouse. Divorced, free, never seeing the phantom again. Fate had other plans. To Theo and Lila. Chen, Rossi, Again. Lila Rossi stabbed her drafting pencil into the sleek mahogany of her desk, the sharp thwack echoing in her minimalist office. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, San Francisco glittered under a brittle autumn sun, but the view offered no solace. On her screen, an email from her mother blinked accusingly. "Darling, the Countess asked about your husband again at Bridge Club. What exactly do we tell people happened to Theo Chen?" "Theo Chen," Lila muttered, the name tasting like stale bread. What happened was nothing. 3 years of contractual matrimony, orchestrated by her beloved Nonna Sofia to merge the Rossi vineyards with the Chen restaurant distribution network, and she'd never once laid eyes on the man. Just signatures on legal documents, a cold exchange of financial portfolios, and a platinum band she'd immediately locked away in her safety deposit box. A reminder never to let obligation masquerade as destiny. The divorce a year ago had been a relief, a final erasure of a bureaucratic error. Now he was just the phantom spouse, a faceless specter haunting her mother's bridge games. She deleted the email, focusing instead on the blueprint for a sustainable urban greenhouse. Control, precision, predictability. These were her anchors. Love, romance, messy, unpredictable variables best avoided. She'd fulfilled Nonna's business-driven wish. The failure of the marriage part wasn't hers to bear. Yet, a tiny, treacherous pang echoed, the disappointment in Nonna's eyes when Lila had quietly returned the unused wedding china. "Fate works in strange ways, Piccola." Nonna had sighed, patting her hand with a stubborn hope Lila couldn't fathom. Across town, steam billowed from industrial-sized pots in the gleaming kitchen of Chen's canvas. Theo Chen, sweat beading on his brow despite the powerful hood vents, expertly plated a vibrant dish of miso-glazed black cod with forbidden rice crisps. The lunch rush was a symphony of controlled chaos he thrived in. Sharp calls for orders, the rhythmic chop of knives, the sizzle of searing scallops. Out front, the dining room buzzed with satisfied murmurs and clinking glasses, a testament to his culinary alchemy. "Order up, 2 canvas specials, 1 vegan riff." Ben, his perpetually relaxed sous chef, slid the plates onto the pass. "Heard Mrs. Delaney raving about the cod again, boss. You gonna trademark that glaze?" Theo flashed a grin, the effortless charm that disarmed investors and reviewers alike. "Nah, Ben, let the competition suffer." He wiped his hands on his apron, the movement fluid. Beneath the confident exterior, though, a familiar guilt gnawed. His gaze snagged on the small, framed photo tucked beside the expediting station. His Yi stern-faced but with eyes crinkled in a near smile. The photo was taken just weeks before the cancer won. Weeks before Yi's final, raspy request. "Marry the Rossi girl, Theo. Secure the legacy. Family finds a way." Theo had signed the marriage contract at Yi's bedside, a hollow gesture to ease a dying man's worry. He'd poured himself into the restaurant instead, the real family legacy. He'd never contacted Lila Rossi, justifying it as respecting boundaries, avoiding awkwardness. Truthfully, he was terrified of failing the expectation, of not measuring up. Now, divorced and free, he joked about his starter marriage to deflect. "Practice run," he'd tell Ben with a wink. "0 casualties except maybe my credit score." The laughter felt thin. He'd failed Yi twice, first by not trying, then by quitting. The phantom spouse wasn't just Lila, it was his own ghost of inadequacy. The citywide blackout hit at 4:37 p.m., plunging Lila's high-rise office tower into a tomb-like silence. One moment, she was fine-tuning airflow calculations. The next, the screens died, the gentle hum of electronics ceased, and the only light was the fading afternoon glow filtering weakly through the windows. Emergency lights flickered on in the hallway, casting long, eerie shadows. "Power's out citywide." Maya's voice, sharp with annoyance, came from the doorway, illuminated by her phone flashlight. Elevators are dead too. We're hiking down 30 floors, Rossi. Hope you wore sensible shoes today. Maya, Lila's best friend and architectural partner, knew everything about the Theo Chen debacle, having handled the logistical nightmare of the wedding that wasn't. Lila groaned, slipping off her heels and grabbing her flats. Remind me why we designed a building reliant on electricity? They joined the stream of disgruntled professionals filing towards the stairwell, a river of phone lights bobbing in the gloom. The air grew thick with exertion and collective frustration as they descended. On the 17th floor, the crowd bottlenecked. A security guard's voice crackled over a walkie-talkie. Elevator 3 stuck between 15 and 16. 2 occupants, maintenance en route, ETA unknown. Lila felt a pang of claustrophobic sympathy. Being trapped in a metal box suspended in darkness sounded like her personal hell. She leaned against the cool concrete wall, massaging her temples. Hunger gnawed at her. Lunch had been a forgotten granola bar. Suddenly, a commotion echoed up the stairwell, a cheerful, booming voice cutting through the grumbles. Absolutely unacceptable. Stranded without sustenance? Not on Ben's watch. Well, technically my watch, but Ben's idea. Who wants gourmet carbs? A figure emerged from the gloom below, illuminated by a headlamp. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and covered in a fine dusting of flour that made him look like a misplaced snowman. He hauled a large, insulated delivery bag. Behind him, a maintenance tech carried tools. Chef Theo? Someone in the crowd recognized him. From Chen's canvas? Theo Chen, culinary first responder at your service, he declared with a theatrical bow that sent a small puff of flour into the air. He unzipped the bag, revealing stacks of neatly wrapped sandwiches. Truffle grilled cheese emergency rations, courtesy of my sous chef's paranoid preparedness, free of charge for the stranded. A ripple of surprised delight went through the crowd. People gratefully accepted the unexpected offering. Theo moved through the throng with infectious energy, cracking jokes about the darkness and the stair climb. Think of it as urban cardio, builds character and appetite. He reached the cluster near elevator 3, including Lila and Maya. His headlamp beam swept over them. Ladies, emergency grilled cheese, guaranteed to make being trapped in a powerless city marginally less bleak. He held out 2 sandwiches wrapped in parchment paper. His eyes, warm and crinkled at the corners despite the flour smudged on his cheek, met Lila's. In the stark, flickering emergency light, they were a startling shade of amber. Lila, usually guarded, was caught off guard by his chaotic appearance, his absurd kindness in the midst of chaos, and the sheer, unexpected vibrancy of him. She was flustered, starving, and inexplicably charmed. Truffle grilled cheese as disaster relief? She managed, a hint of her usual sarcasm surfacing. Is this standard Michelin-starred protocol? Theo's grin widened. He liked the spark in her eyes, the quick wit. Only for class 3 blackouts or higher, ma'am. This is a premier service. He leaned closer conspiratorially. Secret ingredient? Desperation. Works wonders. Maya accepted her sandwich gratefully. Lila hesitated for only a second before taking hers. The warmth seeped through the paper into her chilled fingers. Well, chef, she said, unwrapping it. The aroma of melted cheese, earthy truffle, and toasted artisan bread hit her like a comfort blanket. If this is desperation, I might need more disasters in my life. She took a bite, closing her eyes involuntarily at the perfect blend of creamy, savory, and crisp. Oh, wow. Theo watched her, captivated by the unguarded pleasure on her face. See? Crisis cuisine. My specialty. The maintenance tech finally pried open the elevator doors, freeing the grateful occupants. Theo turned back to Lila as the crowd began shuffling downward again. So, wow. Does that mean I get your Yelp review now, or? Lila, she supplied, suddenly wanting him to know her name. And consider this a 5-star emergency response. Lila Rossi. Theo froze for a microsecond. Rossi, the name echoed like a struck gong in his memory. Lila Rossi. his phantom spouse. But no, impossible. This vibrant, sharp-tongued woman with flour dusting her nose, he'd accidentally puffed some her way, couldn't be that Lila Rossi. His ex-wife was a shadow, a concept. This was real. It had to be coincidence. Rossi wasn't exactly an uncommon name. He shoved the disquiet aside, the spark of connection too bright to ignore. Theo Chen, he said, recovering smoothly. Pleasure to meet you under such illuminating circumstances. Need an escort down these treacherous stairs, Lila Rossi? I promise no more flower avalanches. Lila laughed, a genuine sound that surprised her. Lead on, Chef Chen. But if I trip over a truffle, I'm revising my review. As they descended together, bantering easily about the absurdity of the situation, the city outside forgotten, the name Chen registered dimly in the back of Lila's mind. It tugged at a vague memory, like a forgotten dream, but she dismissed it instantly. Her Theo Chen was a ghost. This Theo? He was all chaotic, charming, deliciously real heat. The phantom spouse faded further into the realm of irrelevance. Their second meeting wasn't fate, they both insisted later, just practicality. Lila needed specific reclaimed oak samples for a client's eco-lodge project. Theo was sourcing heirloom tomatoes and wild nettles for a new menu item. The Ferry Building Farmers Market on a bustling Saturday morning was simply the logical place for both. Lila, sketchbook tucked under her arm, was examining the grain on a slab of weathered oak when a familiar voice boomed behind her. Blueprints! Fancy meeting you in the wild. She turned, a smile already forming. Theo stood there, sunlight catching the amber in his eyes, holding a basket overflowing with vibrant produce. He looked effortlessly at home amidst the market chaos. Chef? Stalking the elusive perfect tomato? More like it's stalking me, he joked, holding up a ridiculously misshapen crimson heirloom. This one screamed personality, like someone else I know. His gaze held hers, warm and appreciative. Lila felt a blush creep up her neck. Charming produce and charming lines? You're versatile. She gestured to his basket. Wild nettles? Bold choice. Planning to sting your customers into submission? Only the ones who send back perfectly cooked fish, he quipped. What's the blueprint for today? He peered at her sketchbook, open to a page of intricate lodge details. Just sourcing inspiration, she said, suddenly self-conscious, trying to capture the feeling of weathered wood meeting modern glass. Theo, a grizzled farmer waved him over. Saved you those goose eggs. Gotta grab those before they fly away, Theo said, regret flashing in his eyes. Coffee? After this? There's a place down the pier with killer views and questionable pastries. Perfect for market debriefing? Lila hesitated for a fraction of a second. This was uncharted territory. Real connection, real risk. But the memory of his kindness in the dark elevator, his easy laugh, the way he looked at her like she was fascinating. Only if the questionable pastry involves chocolate, she countered, her heart doing a little flip. Blueprints, I guarantee chocolate, he grinned. Meet you at the end of the pier in 20? As Theo weaved through the crowd towards the egg stall, Lila watched him go. He bumped into a display of artisanal honey, apologizing profusely to the vendor. Chaotic, she thought, smiling. Delightfully, magnetically chaotic. The name Chen flickered again, a pesky gnat. She remembered seeing his signature on a wine delivery slip at the office last week. Bold, looping strokes. It had seemed vaguely familiar then too, but she'd brushed it off. Seeing it again now? Just déjà vu. Too much stress, not enough coffee. She pushed it away firmly. Her past was irrelevant baggage. This spark, this anticipation buzzing in her veins, was now. Their coffee date stretched into a walk along the Embarcadero, the salty bay breeze carrying their laughter. They talked about everything and nothing, the perils of demanding clients, architectural and culinary, the absurdity of modern dating apps, their shared love for terrible 80s action movies. They carefully navigated around the minefield of past relationships, establishing an unspoken pact. No serious ex talk, The past was irrelevant. You wouldn't believe my last disaster date, Theo chuckled, sipping his espresso. Woman spent 2 hours dissecting her astrological compatibility with her cat. Needless to say, there wasn't a second date. Lila snorted. Try the guy who brought his mother to our 3rd date. For approval. Needless to say, I didn't approve for. She leaned in, lowering her voice dramatically. But the worst? The phantom spouse. Theo choked slightly on his coffee. Phantom spouse? Sounds ominous and intriguing. Arranged marriage, Lila waved a dismissive hand. Well, contracted. Grandparents' bright idea. 3 years, never even met the guy. Signed papers, collected dust, signed divorce papers. The ultimate non-starter. She rolled her eyes, a practiced gesture of disdain. He was just a name on a document, a symbol of obligation, zero emotional investment, thankfully. Theo felt a strange jolt. The parallels were unnerving, but her description was so scathing, so dismissive of the man she'd been legally bound to, the man who was him, that it solidified his resolve. His phantom spouse experience mirrored hers exactly. But this Lila, vibrant and sharp, clearly thought of her actual ex-husband, him, with utter contempt. Revealing his identity now would be social suicide. He plastered on his charming grin, burying the flicker of unease. Sounds like a bullet dodged. Mine was complicated. Let's just say commitment wasn't her strong suit. Or mine back then, he added hastily. Ancient history. Exactly, Lila agreed emphatically. Baggage best left on the carousel. Who needs ghosts when you can have? She gestured between them. Whatever this is? Real, Theo said, the word escaping with surprising intensity. He reached across the small table, his hand covering hers. This feels real, Blueprints. Lila looked down at their joined hands, then up into his earnest amber eyes. The warmth of his touch, the sincerity in his voice, chased away the last lingering shadow of the name Chen. Yeah, chef, she murmured, a genuine smile spreading across her face. It really does. The pact was sealed. The past was a closed book, irrelevant to the story unfolding between them. They had no idea they were passionately denouncing each other, or that their grandparents, watching from afar with knowing smiles and stubborn hope, were just waiting for the universe, or Nonna Sofia's next gala, to rip that book wide open. For now, bathed in the golden afternoon light of the pier, all that existed was the spark, the connection, and the delicious, terrifying thrill of a new beginning, blissfully unaware of the hilarious, inconvenient past they shared. Theo Chen's apartment was usually a testament to controlled culinary chaos. Stacks of cookbooks, exotic spice jars lining open shelves, a state-of-the-art kitchen that looked perpetually prepped for a photo shoot or an imminent explosion. Tonight, however, it was transformed. Soft candlelight flickered, reflecting off polished steel and the deep burgundy of a Barolo breathing on the counter. The air hummed with the sizzle of scallops in browned butter and the rich aroma of wild mushroom risotto. At the heart of it all stood Theo, focused yet radiating a relaxed warmth Lila had never seen in him before. Patience, Blueprints, he chided gently, catching her eye as she leaned against the counter, sketchbook momentarily forgotten. The perfect seer requires respect. He flipped the scallops with practiced grace. Distractions, however tempting, lead to rubbery disasters. Lila smiled, hugging her sketchbook to her chest. Wouldn't dream of interfering with an artist at work, chef. The intimacy felt profound, effortless. It had been 2 months since the farmer's market, 2 months of stolen lunches, late-night phone calls dissecting their days, weekends exploring hidden city gems. This felt different. This was Theo inviting her into his sanctuary, sharing the ritual he held most sacred. The meal was, unsurprisingly, sublime. Each bite of the caramelized scallop, perfectly paired with the earthy, creamy risotto, was a revelation. The Barolo sang alongside it. They talked, not just bantered. Lila found herself sharing the anxieties of her latest commission, a demanding tech mogul wanting a futuristic yet zen headquarters. Theo confessed his fear that the relentless pace of the restaurant was stifling his creativity, his dream of a smaller, more experimental space feeling increasingly distant. "It's like building on sand sometimes," Lila admitted, swirling the wine in her glass. "You pour everything into the design, the vision, but the client's whims, they can shift the foundation overnight." Theo nodded emphatically. "Exactly! The menu, the service, the reviews, it's constant pressure to perform. Sometimes I just want to cook for—" He trailed off, his gaze locking with hers. "For the pure joy of it, for someone who gets it." The unspoken "for you" hung heavy and sweet in the air. Later, curled up on his surprisingly comfortable sofa, sketchbook abandoned, Lila traced the line of Theo's jaw with her fingertip. "You know," she murmured, "I never thought I'd find this ease. After the phantom spouse debacle and a string of dating disasters, I'd pretty much signed off on the whole messy business." Theo pulled her closer, his thumb brushing her cheekbone, his heart hammered against his ribs. "Tell her," a voice screamed. "Tell her now." But the memory of her scornful dismissal of her obligation ex-husband, him, flooded back. The fear of shattering this fragile, beautiful thing they were building was paralyzing. "Me too," he confessed, his voice rough. "My phantom spouse, it felt like a failure before it even began. Made me question if I was even built for the real thing." He kissed her forehead. "But this isn't messy, Lila. This feels inevitable." The word vibrated between them. Inevitable. For Lila, it resonated with a truth deeper than any contract. For Theo, it was a terrifying gamble. He buried his face in her hair, breathing in her scent, vanilla and graphite, and prayed the lie of omission wouldn't be their undoing. The near misses began subtly, like faint tremors before an earthquake. A week later, Lila was buried under samples and fabric swatches in her home office. Theo, determined to be useful and prolong his time with her, offered to tackle the overflowing bookshelf. "Think of it as interior design boot camp," he'd joked, pulling out stacks of old architectural journals. As he lifted a heavy binder marked Tax Docs 2022-2023, a single crisp sheet of paper fluttered out, landing face down at his feet. He picked it up absently, intending to tuck it back. Then he saw the letterhead: Feldman, Cruz, Associates, Family Law. His blood ran cold. He knew that firm intimately. He flipped the paper over. It was an unsigned copy of a divorce decree. Petitioner: Lila Alessandra Rossi. Respondent: Theodore James Chen. The date glared back at him, exactly 1 year and 2 months ago. The lawyer's name, Arthur Feldman, was the same one who'd handled his side of the dissolution. Theo's vision blurred. The room tilted. He gripped the edge of the bookshelf, the grainy texture biting into his palm. Coincidence? Feldman is a common name, lots of Rosses. But the date? The exact date? Panic clawed its way up his throat. He stared at Lila, bathed in afternoon sunlight, as she compared marble samples, utterly oblivious. She hummed softly, a picture of focused serenity. The contrast was jarring. "Find anything interesting, chef?" Lila asked without looking up, sensing his stillness. Theo jumped, hastily folding the decree and shoving it deep into the binder, then cramming the binder back onto the shelf. "Just fascinating reading on municipal building codes," he managed, his voice strained. He forced a laugh that sounded brittle even to his own ears. "Seriously dry stuff. Makes my kitchen health inspections look thrilling." He rubbed his temples, feigning a sudden headache. "Actually, blueprints, mind if I grab some air? Think I inhaled too much archival dust." Lila frowned slightly, concerned. "Of course. Are you okay? You look pale." "Fine, just need a minute." He practically bolted from the room, leaning against the cool wall of her hallway, taking deep, shuddering breaths. "It's just a copy. Unsigned. Maybe she got it and never finalized?" No, we finalized." The memory of signing his own copy, feeling a strange mix of relief and profound shame, washed over him. Why does she have this? Why keep it? The thought that she might harbor some secret feeling, some regret, was instantly crushed by the memory of her scorn. She called me a symbol of obligation, zero emotional investment. The unsigned decree felt like a cruel joke, a reminder of the gulf between his secret guilt and her apparent indifference. He shoved the terrifying implications down, deep. Coincidence. It has to be. The next tremor arrived via Nonna Sofia. She descended on Lila's apartment like a benevolent biscotti-bearing hurricane, filling the space with the scent of lavender and unwavering expectation. "Piccola, you look radiant," Sofia declared, pinching Lila's cheek. "City life agrees with you. Or perhaps," she added, her eyes twinkling with unnerving perception, "it is something or someone specific?" Lila busied herself making espresso, avoiding her grandmother's gaze. "Work is good, Nonna. Busy, very busy." "Ah, work." Sofia waved a dismissive hand adorned with familiar gold rings. "Important, see. But love, family, this is the true foundation." She settled onto the sofa, her posture regal. "Speaking of family and foundations, the board meets next week to finalize the renewal with Chen's distribution. A strong partnership, no? Built to last." Lila tensed. "The contract is solid, Nonna, profitable for both sides." She placed the tiny espresso cup before her grandmother. "Contracts?" Sofia scoffed, sipping the dark liquid. "Paper is paper, Piccola. It is the spirit of the agreement, the connection between families. Like the connection your Yi and I always envisioned." She fixed Lila with a penetrating stare. "Theo Chen runs it now, yes? A handsome boy, I hear. Very talented. Reminds me of his grandfather. Strong, ambitious." Lila felt a prickle of irritation. "Nonna, please, don't start." "Start?" Sofia feigned innocence. "I merely observe. Life has a funny way of circling back, Lila. Fate is not so easily dismissed as what did you call it? A phantom?" She chuckled softly. "Sometimes what we push away comes back, not as an obligation, but as a gift, a second chance." Lila slammed her own espresso cup down. "Theo, my Theo, is wonderful. He's nothing like that Chen guy you and Yiye shackled me to. That was a business deal, a farce. This is real. Don't confuse them just because they share a last name." The outburst surprised even her. Sofia simply smiled, serene and infuriating. "Of course, Piccola, Real is good, very good. Just remember, the heart recognizes its own, even when the mind forgets." She patted Lila's hand. "Now, tell me more about this real Theo. Does he make you laugh?" Frustration warred with affection. Lila sighed, giving in. "Constantly, Nonna. He's ridiculous, and kind, and he cooks." A reluctant smile touched her lips. Like an angel with a slightly dirty apron. Sofia's eyes gleamed with triumph. "Ah, cooking. Like Yi, a good sign. A very good sign." The final prelude to the earthquake happened at Theo's apartment a few days later. Lila was hunting for a specific book on Japanese joinery he'd mentioned, rummaging through a cluttered bookshelf in his rarely used study. As she pulled a heavy volume out, a small, dusty framed photo tumbled from behind it, landing face up on the rug. She picked it up, blowing off the dust. It showed an older Asian man with a stern but kind face. Yi, she assumed, standing beside a much younger Theo, barely out of his teens, grinning awkwardly in a slightly too big suit. And beside Ye, beaming with unmistakable warmth, her arm linked through his, stood Nonna Sofia. They were clearly at Rossi Vineyards. Lila recognized the old stone tasting room terrace in the background. A banner strung behind them read, "Rossi, Chen Partnership Celebration." The date etched on the frame, June 15th, a date squarely within the 3-year span of her contractual marriage to Theo Chen. Ice water flooded Lila's veins. She stared, transfixed. Nonna and Yi, together, at the vineyard, during the marriage. Theo's explanation, Yi knew Sofia through business. suddenly felt flimsy, a massive understatement. This looked like family, like the founders of their ridiculous pact, standing together as if celebrating a union far deeper than a distribution deal. The photo was tangible proof of the connection she'd dismissed, the web her grandmother had woven. A wave of dizziness washed over her. Was it possible? No, impossible. Coincidence piled upon coincidence. But the unease was profound, a cold knot tightening in her stomach. Theo appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. Find it? Oh. He saw the photo in her hands, saw her pale face. His heart lurched. That old thing. Yeah, Yi and Nonna Sofia at some vineyard shindig. Ancient history. He tried for nonchalance, setting the mugs down. Lila looked up, her eyes wide, searching his face. They looked close. Theo misinterpreted the intensity in her gaze, the shock, as something else entirely, jealousy. The green-eyed monster Maya had warned him about after his disastrous date with the cat lady story? She thinks Nonna Sofia is an old flame, or that the woman next to Yeye is. The absurdity almost made him laugh, but the vulnerability on Lila's face stopped him. He crossed the room quickly, gently taking the photo from her trembling hands and setting it aside. Hey, he murmured, tilting her chin up. That's just Yi and Nonna Sofia. Business partners. Good friends, I think. Nothing more, certainly nothing for you to worry about. He brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead, his thumb lingering. The only history I care about is the one we're making right now, okay? He kissed her, pouring every ounce of reassurance, every bit of his terrified love, into it. Lila melted against him, the disturbing image momentarily blurred by his touch, his words. He's right. It's just a photo. Business partners. Ancient history. I'm being paranoid. She kissed him back fiercely, trying to drown the insistent whisper of doubt in the warmth of the present. This is real. This is now. The near revelations weren't confined to just the 2 of them. Maya stared at the screen, then at the man laughing with Lila across the crowded restaurant bar. Theo Chen. The Theo Chen. Lila's phantom spouse. The face from the wedding documents she'd filed. The marriage license photo Theo had been obligated to provide. A younger, more serious version, but undeniably him. Maya's blood turned to slush. Oh, my God. She waited until Theo went to the restroom, then pounced. Lila, Rossi, a word. Now. She dragged her friend towards the hallway near the bathrooms. What? Maya, you're crushing my arm. That's Theo Chen, Maya hissed, eyes wide with panic. Lila blinked. Well, duh. That's his name, and his restaurant. Hence Chen's canvas? No, Lila, listen. Theo Chen, as in your Theo Chen, as in the name on the divorce decree Theo Chen, your husband. Lila stared at her as if she'd grown a second head. Then she burst out laughing. Oh, Maya, no, that's hilarious, but impossible. My Theo is, well, Theo. This Theo. He's nothing like the corporate drone Nonna described. He's a chef, covered in flour. He rescues people with grilled cheese. My ex-husband was some soulless businessman glued to a desk. Different person. Same last name, obviously. Chen isn't exactly rare. She patted Maya's arm, still chuckling. Nice try, though, drama queen. Maya gripped her shoulders. Lila, I filed the papers. I saw his ID photo. It's him. Younger, yes, but him. Look at the jawline, the eyes. Think, Rossi Vineyards, Chen Distribution, Nonna's Meddling. It all fits. Lila's smile faltered for a second, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. Then she shook her head firmly, banishing it. No, absolutely not. That's just morbid coincidence, or fate playing a really twisted joke. She saw Theo emerging from the restroom, scanning the crowd for her, his expression warm. Her heart swelled. Look at him, Maya. Really look. Does that look like a man who'd agree to a 3-year paper marriage without meeting his wife? Does that look like the phantom spouses I described? Her voice softened. This Theo, he's real, he's present, he makes me feel alive. I don't care who he shares a name with in my past. This is my present, my future. Don't ruin this for me. She squeezed Maya's hand, her eyes pleading. Promise me you'll drop it, please? It's irrelevant baggage. He is what matters now. Maya looked into her best friend's radiant, utterly convinced face, then back at Theo Chen, who was now weaving towards them, a question in his eyes. The bomb was primed, ticking loudly in Maya's chest, but Lila's happiness was a fragile, beautiful thing. She swallowed hard, forcing a smile. Okay, Rossi. Okay. Dropped. Just be happy. And brace yourself, she added silently, the weight of the secret settling like lead in her stomach. A similar scene played out in the steamy confines of Chen's canvas kitchen the next afternoon. Theo was prepping for dinner service, humming absently, a dopey smile playing on his lips as he recalled Lila's laughter over breakfast. Ben watched him, wiping down a station. So, Ben ventured casually, sharpening a knife with rhythmic shinks. Lila Rossi, she's something else, huh? Really got under your skin. Theo's grin widened. Like truffle oil in risotto, Ben. Irresistible and impossible to remove. She's amazing. Sharp, funny, gorgeous. He sighed happily. Feels different, you know. Real. Ben nodded slowly. Rossi, Rossi. He feigned deep thought. Why does that name ring such a loud bell? Oh, wait. He snapped his fingers. Wasn't that? Nah, couldn't be. He shook his head. Theo's smile vanished. He stopped chopping herbs. Couldn't be what, Ben? His voice was tight. Ben hesitated, seeing the sudden tension in Theo's shoulders. Well, your ex, the phantom spouse, wasn't her name Rossi? Lila Rossi? Theo slammed the knife down. Don't. The word was sharp, final. He turned to face Ben, his expression uncharacteristically hard. Don't bring up that mess. Not now, not ever in relation to Lila. But Theo, no. Theo cut him off, his voice low and intense. That was a joke, a bad one, a business arrangement that meant nothing. This, Lila, this is everything. It's different, she's different. Bringing that up, it feels like poisoning something pure. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and fear warring in his eyes. Just drop it, Ben, okay? For me. Ben held his gaze for a long moment. He saw the raw terror beneath the anger, the fear of losing what Theo clearly cherished most. He sighed, raising his hands in surrender. Okay, boss, consider it dropped. To oblivion. He went back to polishing a pot, the shink of his knife sharpening the only sound in the suddenly tense kitchen. The secret now weighed heavily on two best friends. The dramatic irony thickened to near solid form one rainy Sunday afternoon. Lila and Theo were lounging on his sofa, wrapped in a blanket, watching the downpour streak the windows. Comfortable silence reigned until Theo, tracing patterns on her arm, chuckled. You know what we should do? Roll. Play our worst first dates ever. Guaranteed comedy gold. Lila grinned. Oh, I'm game. Prepare to cringe. Mine involved a guy who spent 45 minutes explaining the intricate lore of his World of Warcraft guild, while wearing a cloak. Theo barked a laugh. Mine insisted on reading my palm and predicted I'd die choking on a scallop. Charming. He nuzzled her neck. But seriously, what's the worst conceivable setup? Like, arranged by others level bad? Lila thought for a second, eyes sparkling with mischief. Okay, imagine this. Your beloved, meddling grandparent calls you on their literal deathbed. Theo stiffened almost imperceptibly. Right, okay, you're distraught, vulnerable, Lila continued, warming to the theme. They make this heartfelt plea, marry this complete stranger, for, let's say, merging the family soy sauce empire with their olive oil conglomerate. Theo forced a laugh. Soy sauce and olive oil, bold fusion. Exactly. So, riddled with guilt and grief, you agree. You sign papers, you're legally married, for years. But you never actually meet this person. Not once. You don't even know what they look like. They're just a name, a signature, a phantom. Theo felt slightly ill. Sounds efficient? Efficiently awful, Lila declared. Then finally, after years of this bizarre, sterile non-marriage, you sign divorce papers, freedom, relief, and you vow never ever to let anyone else dictate your love life again. She shook her head, laughing. Could you imagine? How utterly ridiculous and soul-crushing would that be? Theo stared at her, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. She was describing their actual marriage. Perfectly. And she was laughing. The sheer, brutal irony was almost unbearable. He managed a strangled chuckle. Wow, that is spectacularly bad. Truly the worst. Who could possibly live like that? The lie tasted like ash. Right? Lila snuggled closer, oblivious to the internal earthquake she'd just triggered. Thankfully, our first date involved a blackout and a grilled cheese. No deathbed contracts in sight. She kissed his cheek. Way more our style, chef. Theo pulled her tight, burying his face in her hair, hiding the turmoil in his eyes. Infinitely better blueprints, he murmured, his voice thick. Infinitely. The universe, it seemed, had a wicked sense of humor, and Nonna Sofia, it turned out, had impeccable timing. The embossed invitation arrived the next morning, delivered by hand. It was heavy cream cardstock, adorned with intertwined grapevines and delicate brushstrokes of ink. It announced, "The Rossi family vineyards, Chen's canvas request the honor of your presence. At a gala celebration honoring our renewed partnership, shared legacy Saturday, November 18, 7:00 p.m. Rossi Vineyards Estate." And scrawled in Nonna Sofia's elegant looping hand at the bottom, "Piccola, wear the emerald dress, bring Theo. Fate has a seat reserved, Nonna." The final tremor. The ground beneath their blissful, ignorant feet was cracking wide open. The grand reveal loomed, promising not just shock but confetti. The Rossi Vineyards estate, bathed in the soft glow of hundreds of fairy lights strung through ancient oaks, looked like something out of a dream, or a meticulously staged ambush. Lila smoothed the emerald silk of her dress, Nonna's chosen weapon, feeling its cool weight like armor. Beside her, Theo looked devastatingly handsome in a tailored charcoal suit, his usual easy charm replaced by a focused intensity as he navigated the gravel path. The air hummed with the chatter of San Francisco's elite, the clink of crystal, and the lush notes of a string quartet. The scent of crushed grapes, wood smoke, and expensive perfume mingled, heady and overwhelming. "Deep breaths, blueprints," Theo murmured, his hand finding the small of her back. His touch, usually a comfort, sent a jolt of nervous energy through her. "It's just a party. A very fancy, very Rossi Chen party." He forced a smile, but his eyes scanned the crowd like a man expecting landmines. "It feels like more," Lila admitted, gripping her clutch. Nonna's note, "Fate has a seat reserved?" What does that even mean? "It means Nonna Sofia enjoys dramatics almost as much as she enjoys meddling," Theo replied, steering her towards the grand stone terrace where waiters circulated with trays of Rossi Cabernet and Chen's signature scallop canapés. "Just smile, eat the excellent food, and remember we escape in 2 hours. I booked that late-night jazz club, remember?" Lila nodded, clinging to the promise of escape. They moved through the glittering throng, accepting glasses of wine. Lila spotted Maya near a bubbling fountain, her expression tight with anxiety. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of her head when Lila caught her eye. "Drop it!" the gesture screamed. Ben, stationed near the open kitchen doors where Chen's canvas staff were plating desserts, looked equally grim, polishing a glass with fierce concentration. Nonna Sofia, resplendent in burgundy velvet, held court near the head of a long, linen-draped table. Her eyes lit up when she saw them. Piccola, Theo, bellissimo. She swept over, air-kissing cheeks. The stars of the evening have arrived. Doesn't Lila shine like an emerald, Theo? The brightest jewel here, Nonna Sofia, Theo said smoothly, though his knuckles were white around his wineglass. He subtly tried to steer Lila away, but Nonna linked arms with both of them. Nonsense, you must mingle. So many wish to congratulate the couple driving our renewed partnership. She propelled them deeper into the crowd, introducing them to board members, distributors, old family friends. Each introduction felt loaded. Meet Lila Rossi, our brilliant architect granddaughter, and Theo Chen, the visionary behind Chen's canvas. Such a powerful combination, no? Reminds me so much of when Sophia and Ye first joined forces. Destined, one might say. The winks, the knowing smiles, the heavy emphasis on Rossi and Chen became a relentless drumbeat. Lila felt Theo's tension radiating beside her, mirroring her own rising panic. Destined? Lila whispered fiercely to Theo during a momentary lull near a rose arbor. Is everyone here drunk on symbolism? Just the Rossi Cabernet, hopefully, Theo quipped weakly, his gaze darting towards the makeshift podium being set up. Speeches soon, then we can bolt. But Nonna Sofia was already ascending the podium, tapping the microphone. The crowd hushed, turning expectant faces towards her. Lila's heart hammered against her ribs. Theo's hand found hers, gripping it tightly. His palm was damp. Buonasera, famiglia e amici. Nonna's voice, amplified, filled the night air, warm and commanding. Tonight we celebrate. We celebrate the enduring strength of Rossi Vineyards, the vibrant innovation of Chen's canvas, and the renewed contract that binds our futures together. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Lila held her breath. But, Nonna continued, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed, laser-focused on Lila and Theo. Tonight is about so much more than paper and profit. Her voice softened, taking on a nostalgic, almost mystical tone. Years ago, my dear friend, Theo's Yi and I shared a dream. A dream not just of business, but of family, of legacy, of hearts uniting as well as enterprises. She paused, letting the words hang. Lila felt Theo flinch beside her. We took a leap of faith, Nonna said, her gaze unwavering on the couple. We joined our families with hope. We believed in fate's design. A murmur of confusion started in the crowd. Board members exchanged puzzled glances. The path, admittedly, took an unexpected turn the first time. Nonna's smile turned beatific, triumphant. But look where fate, with its infinite wisdom and perhaps a little nudge from stubborn old grandparents, has brought us. She raised her glass dramatically towards Lila and Theo. The spotlight operator, clearly briefed, swung the beam, bathing them in blinding light. Confetti cannons positioned discreetly in the trees erupted, showering them in a blizzard of gold and crimson paper. Look at them now, Nonna declared, her voice ringing with absolute conviction. Proving that true love, even if it takes a detour, finds its way. To Theo and Lila Chen Rossi, again, salute. Silence. Deafening, crushing silence. The confetti fluttered down, absurdly festive against the frozen tableau. The string quartet's last note died abruptly. Every head swiveled towards Lila and Theo, trapped in the spotlight's glare. Confusion etched the faces of the crowd. Again? Lila's world stopped. The name, Chen Rossi. Again, the date on the photo. The divorce decree. Maya's warning. Ben's look. Nonna's hints. Theo's flinches. Every near miss, every dismissed coincidence, every scrap of evidence she'd rationalized away came crashing down with the weight of a collapsing building. The pieces locked together with brutal, undeniable clarity. Her head snapped towards Theo. His face was bone white, stripped of all charm, all pretense. His amber eyes, wide with shock and dawning horror, met hers. In that instant she saw the truth reflected back, the same devastating realization. The phantom spouse wasn't a faceless bureaucrat or a distant businessman. The phantom spouse was him, the man whose touch set her on fire. the man she'd laughed with, confided in, fallen hopelessly in love with over the past year. The man who had lied to her face every single day. The fragile bubble of their blissful ignorance didn't just pop, it detonated. "You knew?" The accusation tore from Lila's throat, raw and shrill, shattering the silence. She wrenched her hand from Theo's grip as if burned. "All this time you knew?" Theo recoiled, the color flooding back into his face in a wave of crimson fury and humiliation. "Me?" he roared, the sound echoing off the stone terrace. "How could you not tell me? You ranted about your obligation ex, called him a soulless phantom. Was any of this real?" He gestured wildly between them, his voice cracking. "Or was this just, what? Some twisted cosmic joke? Payback?" "Real?" Lila laughed, a harsh broken sound. Tears of betrayal and rage blurred her vision. "You want to talk about real? You looked me in the eye while I trashed my own husband. And you said nothing. You let me fall in love with you while you hid. This." She swept a hand out, encompassing the gala, the confetti, the gaping crowd. "Was it funny? Watching me be the ultimate fool?" "I was terrified," Theo shouted, stepping closer, his own eyes blazing. "Terrified you'd look at me like you're looking at me right now if you knew. Like I was that failure, that obligation you despised. I thought if you just knew me." His voice broke. "You thought wrong," Lila spat. The humiliation was a physical pain, sharp and deep. To have her deepest fear, being trapped in obligation, seemingly realized in the most grotesque, public way possible, it was unbearable. This whole thing, our whole year, was it just fate playing puppets? Or was it you playing me? Did Nonna put you up to this? Renew the contract by any means necessary." Theo looked as if she'd slapped him. "How dare you? I love you. Or I thought I did. But you kept the damn ring." The words exploded out of him, fueled by his own tidal wave of shame and Ben's recent revelation. Lila froze. "What?" "The wedding ring," Theo raged, oblivious to the stunned audience. "Maya told Ben you kept it. Some morbid reminder? Or were you secretly pining for the phantom all along?" "That ring," Lila hissed, her voice trembling with fury, "was a reminder never to be contractually obligated to anyone ever again, especially not to a liar." She spotted her grandmother standing frozen at the podium, her triumphant smile replaced by dawning horror. "And you?" Lila turned her scorching gaze on Nonna Sofia. "This was your grand design? Your fate? Well, congratulations, you've successfully humiliated everyone involved. Happy now?" Without waiting for a reply, Lila whirled around, the emerald silk swirling. She couldn't breathe, she couldn't stay. She shoved past gawking guests, the whispers starting like a rising tide. Divorced? Married before? Didn't know? Crashing around her. She ignored Maya's outstretched hand, Ben's shocked face. She just ran, the fairy lights blurring into streaks, the confetti crunching under her fleeing heels. Theo stood rooted for a second longer, the wreckage of his world strewn around him, the horrified crowd, his shattered reputation, the betrayed fury on Lila's face burned into his retinas. He met Nonna Sofia's devastated eyes. There was no triumph there now, only profound regret. With a guttural sound of anguish, Theo turned and bolted in the opposite direction, disappearing into the shadowed vineyards, leaving the gala in stunned, scandalized silence. The celebration of partnership had become a very public implosion. Lila didn't remember driving home. She found herself in her pristine, silent apartment, the emerald dress ripped off and discarded on the floor like a poisonous skin. She scrubbed at her face, trying to erase the feel of Theo's touch, the sound of his voice, the image of his betrayal. Humiliation warred with a grief so profound it felt like a physical wound. The man she loved, trusted, built dreams with, was the ghost she'd dismissed. The year of laughter, intimacy, whispered plans. Was it all a lie? Had he known from the start? Was every touch, every word calculated? The doubts were vipers, coiling and striking. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Maya, Nonna, unknown numbers. She silenced it, throwing it across the room. The silence was worse. It echoed with Theo's accusations. You kept the ring. He thought she was sentimental, weak, still tied to the contract. Fury surged again, hot and cleansing. She stormed to her bedroom, wrenching open the small safe hidden behind a framed blueprint. Inside, nestled beside her passport, lay the simple platinum band. She grabbed it, the metal cold and accusing. She hadn't looked at it since the divorce. It wasn't sentiment, it was a vow to herself. She clutched it, the edges biting into her palm. Never again, she whispered to the empty room, the tears finally coming, hot and furious. Never be that powerless again. Theo drove for hours, aimlessly, the city lights a smear of color. He ended up at the closed restaurant, sitting in the dark kitchen on the cold tile floor, the only light coming from the walk-in fridge. Ben found him there hours later. Boss? Ben's voice was tentative in the darkness. Theo didn't look up. She kept the ring, Ben, he said, his voice raw. The ring from then. Why? After everything she said, why keep it? The question was a plea. Ben sighed, leaning against a stainless steel counter. Maya told me, it wasn't what you think. Lila kept it as a reminder never to get trapped in a contract like that again. A promise to herself. Theo lifted his head, confusion warring with the hurt. A reminder? Not because she missed the phantom spouse? Ben shook his head. No way. According to Maya, Lila hated everything that marriage represented. The ring was her trophy of survival, her never-again medal. He paused. Maya also told her you kept the unsigned divorce decree, tortured yourself over it. Theo flinched. I found it at her place. It felt like evidence of my failure, proof I hadn't even tried. He buried his face in his hands. I thought she kept the ring because maybe some part of her had hoped. He trailed off, the foolishness of it crashing down. God, Ben, I screwed up. Monumentally. I was so scared she'd see me as that failure, that I became the liar. I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. Silence stretched, thick with regret. What are you going to do? Ben finally asked. Theo didn't know. The shame was paralyzing. The fear of her rejection, her justified anger, was a wall he couldn't scale. He'd failed Yi, he'd failed Lila, twice. Days bled into a week of suffocating silence. Lila threw herself into work, designing with a fierce, almost brutal precision. The eco-lodge blueprints became intricate fortresses. She ignored Nonna Sofia's pleading voicemails, Maya's worried texts. The hurt was a raw, open thing. She replayed every moment, every conversation, searching for clues she'd missed, signs of his deception, the elevator, the farmer's market, the laughter, the love. Had any of it been real? Or was it all just a performance for the grandson of Yi, fulfilling some twisted sense of obligation to a dead man? One evening, poring over schematics under the harsh light of her desk lamp, her eyes fell on a discarded sketch. It was a rough design for Theo's dream bistro, their dream bistro, sketched during a lazy Sunday morning weeks ago. A warm, inviting space blending her clean lines with his vibrant energy. She'd labeled it canvas, blueprint. Seeing it now, the hopefulness of it, the shared vision, it broke her. A sob escaped, harsh and ugly. Because beneath the betrayal, beneath the rage and humiliation, the love was still there. A deep, stubborn ache for the man she'd believed him to be. The man who cooked like an angel, who made her laugh until she cried, who looked at her like she was his entire world. Had that man ever existed? Or was he just another layer of Theo Chen's charm offensive? Theo spent the week in a fog of misery and self-recrimination. He tried to work, but the kitchen felt alien. His food tasted like ash. He replayed the gala, Lila's shattered expression, his own cowardice. Ben's words echoed. She kept it as a reminder, a promise to herself, and Maya's. He kept the decree, tortured himself. They were both prisoners of the past, guarding their wounds, letting fear dictate their present. He'd been so terrified of being seen as the failed contract husband, he'd hidden his true self, the self that had fallen completely, authentically in love with Lila Rossi. Not the Rossi from the contract, but the fierce, brilliant, sarcastic, vulnerable woman he'd met in a dark elevator. He thought about Ye, not the ghost demanding fulfillment of a pact, but the man who'd loved his wife deeply, who'd built his business with passion. Yi hadn't wanted a business transaction. He'd wanted happiness for Theo. He'd just gone about it in the most misguided way possible. Nonna Sofia, too. Their meddling was epic, infuriating, but rooted in a genuine, if wildly impractical, belief in love and family. He thought about the new contract he'd dreamed of, the one for their bistro. It wasn't about obligation or legacy. It was about shared passion, mutual respect, love. That was the foundation he wanted. That was the foundation they had built, unknowingly, over the past year. The past 3 years were a bizarre prologue, irrelevant to the story they'd actually written together. He knew what he had to do. It wasn't a grand romantic gesture. It was an offering, an acknowledgement, a plea for a chance to build something real, consciously, without ghosts or contracts looming over them. He went to his drafting table, the one Lila had redesigned, and picked up a pen. Lila was reviewing structural calculations when her assistant buzzed. "Ms. Rossi? Theo Chen is here to see you. He says it's a contractual matter?" The assistant's voice was laced with confusion. Lila's heart lurched violently. Contractual? Now? After a week of silence? Fury warred with a treacherous flicker of hope. "Send him in," she said, her voice colder than she felt. Theo entered. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, his usual vibrant energy muted. He wore jeans and a simple black sweater, no chef's whites. In his hand, he held not flowers, but a single sheet of paper. He stopped just inside the doorway, meeting her gaze directly. The charm was gone. In its place was a raw vulnerability she'd never seen before. "Lila," he said, his voice quiet but steady. "Mr. Chen?" she replied, her tone glacial. "To what do I owe this contractual visit?" He flinched slightly but held his ground. He walked forward and placed the single sheet of paper on her immaculate desk. "I come bearing a new agreement, one I hope you'll consider." Lila looked down. The heading, typed in clean, bold font, made her breath catch. Agreement to start over, no grandparents allowed. Beneath it, numbered clauses. Article 1. The parties, hereinafter referred to as Theo and Lila, hereby acknowledge that the period spanning approximately three years prior to the signing of this agreement was deeply weird, involved a legally binding contract of marriage entered into under duress, grandparental guilt, and featured a spectacular failure of basic communication, namely, never meeting. The parties agree this period holds no bearing on the present agreement, except as a cautionary tale about listening to well-meaning but overly romantic octogenarians. Article 2. The parties further acknowledge that the period spanning approximately one year, immediately preceding the unfortunate gala incident of November 18th, was objectively amazing. It featured exceptional grilled cheese, insightful market analysis, shared dreams, including but not limited to a design-forward bistro, honest communication about everything except the weird 3-year period, laughter, mutual respect, and a significant depth of feeling subsequently obscured by public humiliation and justifiable anger. The parties agree this period was real, valuable, and worth salvaging if possible. Article 3. The parties therefore agree to the following terms for starting over. 1. A full reset of expectations, wiping the slate clean of all phantom spouses, unsigned decrees, hidden rings, kept for whatever reason understood and respected, and gala-induced trauma. 3.2. A commitment to radical honesty. This includes disclosing any past entanglements with the other party, however bizarre or contractually obligated, before falling in love with them again. Theo acknowledges failing spectacularly on this point previously, and offers profound apologies without expectation of immediate forgiveness. 3.3. A proper courtship. No skipped steps. This includes actual dates, dinners, movies, walks, etc., meeting friends, family, voluntarily, not via ambush, and generally doing things people do when they like each other and aren't secretly already divorced from one another. 3.4. No involvement from Nonna Sofia, Yi, posthumously or otherwise, or any other meddling relative in the formation or terms of this agreement or the relationship it governs. Their role is hereby limited to fond or exasperated observation from a respectful distance. Article 4. The parties agree to communicate openly, face to face whenever possible, about needs, fears, dreams, and whether the truffle oil was too strong in the risotto. Passive-aggressive note-writing and dramatic public revelations are strictly prohibited. Lila read it, then read it again. The absurdity of it, the painful honesty, the echoes of their inside jokes, grilled cheese, blueprints, chef, the acknowledgement of the hurt and the love, the specific call-out of the ring in the decree, the promise of transparency, the banishment of grandparents, the plea for a chance to do it right. Tears welled, hot and insistent, blurring the words. She looked up at Theo. He stood before her. No defenses, no charm, just raw hope and regret. "It's not a merger," he said softly, his voice thick. "It's not an obligation, it's a proposal to build something new, together, on our terms, with no ghosts, just us. If you're willing to try, if you can ever trust me again." He swallowed hard. "I love you, Lila Rossi, not the name on a contract. You, the architect who hates municipal codes, the woman who laughs at my terrible jokes, who challenges me, who sees the mess I am, and," he faltered, "who saw me, the real me, before I hid him. I want to be that man for you, if you'll let me." Silence stretched, charged with the weight of everything broken and everything still possible. Lila looked down at the agreement. She picked up her favorite drafting pencil, its familiar weight, a comfort. Slowly, deliberately, she drew a single, firm line through the word date in Article Sandian. Beside it, in her clear, precise script, she wrote, "Build a life." She held the pencil out to him. Theo's breath hitched. He took it, his fingers brushing hers. He moved around the desk, standing beside her. He didn't hesitate. He signed his name with a bold, looping stroke beneath hers. Theo Chen. He dropped the pencil. They looked at each other, the signed agreement between them. Not a binding contract, but a shared intention. A map for a new beginning. Theo reached out, his touch tentative, a question. Lila answered by stepping into his arms, burying her face in the wool of his sweater, breathing in the familiar scent of spices and him. The tears came then, not just of hurt, but of relief, of fragile, terrifying hope. He held her tightly, his own shoulders shaking. They stood like that for a long time, architects of their own uncertain, hopeful future, the ghosts of contracts past finally receding. 1 year later, the soft glow of Edison bulbs illuminated the warm, bustling space of canvas blueprint. The air hummed with contented chatter, the clink of glasses, and the enticing aromas of Theo's signature fusion dishes. Reclaimed wood tables Lila had sourced mingled with sleek steel accents. Sketches of famous buildings shared wall space with vibrant food photography. It was their dream made tangible, a perfect blend of her structure, his flavor, their shared vision. Theo slid a plate of delicate miso-glazed sea bass in front of Lila at their usual corner table. "For the brilliant co-owner," he murmured, kissing her temple. The platinum band on her left hand caught the light, a new ring chosen together. Lila smiled, reaching up to squeeze his hand. "Looks perfect, chef." Her gaze drifted to the small, discreet portrait hanging near the kitchen door. Yaya and Nonna Sofia, captured together at that long-ago vineyard celebration, their eyes seeming to hold a knowing twinkle. Theo followed her gaze. He raised his glass of Rossi Cabernet. Lila lifted hers. "Turns out," Theo murmured, his amber eyes warm on hers, "they weren't entirely crazy." Lila leaned into him, her head resting against his shoulder, watching their happy, noisy, utterly real creation. Just wildly, hilariously, inconveniently right. She clinked her glass against his. "Salute, chef. To the build." "To the build, blueprints," Theo echoed, his voice thick with love, and the sweet, hard-won certainty of a second chance forged not by fate's contract, but by their own conscious, chaotic, perfect choice. And to many, many more chapters. Enjoyed the story? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next one.